Hey GLS fam! Loving the content? Help keep the good vibes flowing by subscribing. Or, if you're feeling extra awesome, send a super thanks. Or buy me a coffee using the link below. Your support means the world to me, and every bit helps me create more of the stories you love. Thank you for being amazing, and stay tuned for even more goodness coming your way soon. Love you always. After the sudden passing of her wife, a grieving woman finds unexpected comfort in her sister-in-law. As their bond deepens, guilt and desire intertwine, leading to an emotional and forbidden romance. Chapter 1. The house still smelled like her. It was the lavender detergent on the laundry, the half-used jasmine shampoo in the shower, the faint scent of rosewood and mint from her bedside drawer. 3 months had passed, and yet everything remained untouched, like a shrine, or perhaps a denial. Emily Callahan stood in the doorway of what used to be their bedroom, one hand gripping the edge of the doorframe like she needed it to stay upright. Sunlight slanted through the blinds, carving long shadows across the beige carpet. Her gaze flicked to the side of the bed that remained perfectly made. Untouched. Frozen. Just like her. A knock at the front door broke the silence. Emily blinked as if waking from a trance, her legs moving stiffly down the hallway. Each step echoed louder than it should have. The knock came again, gentle, rhythmic. When she opened it, sunlight burst in and framed the visitor in a halo. "Hi," said Claire. Her voice was soft but steadier than Emily expected. "I brought muffins." "Blueberry, your favorite." Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out. Claire's face, so familiar, so devastatingly close to hers, hit like a memory. The curve of her jaw, the way her brown hair fell into her eyes, her scent, orange blossom and bergamot. It was like seeing Anna again, and yet not. Claire had always looked like her older sister, but not anymore. Anna's laugh had vanished. Her warmth, her sharpness. Claire was quieter, grounded in a way Anna never was. "Thank you," Emily said finally. She stepped aside. Claire entered hesitantly, holding the paper bag like an offering. "I didn't mean to intrude. I wanted to check on you." Emily didn't respond right away. Her throat was tight. Talking felt like trespassing on sacred ground. "I'm okay," she lied. Claire set the bag on the kitchen counter, her eyes scanning the empty house. She didn't need to ask to know that Emily was not okay. She'd known Emily long before Anna ever introduced them, and she'd been there when Anna died. They sat on the back porch later that afternoon. The garden Anna had planted was still alive, though it had grown wild. Marigolds stretched toward the sky. The rosemary bush was overrun. A single, stubborn sunflower stood tall in the corner. Emily sipped her tea, her eyes hollow but dry. "I keep expecting her to walk out that door and scold me for letting the tomatoes rot." Claire smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. "She always hated mess," Emily added. "You don't have to keep it together all the time," Claire said gently. "I'm not," Emily said. "I'm falling apart in private." Claire didn't speak for a while. She watched a bee hover near the lavender. The breeze brushed strands of hair across her face. "Do you remember the cabin in Vermont?" she asked softly. Emily smiled, for real this time. When Anna got stuck in the snow trying to prove she could build a fire without instructions? She burned all the marshmallows. She insisted they were caramelized, Emily added, chuckling once. Then her voice cracked. "God, she was." "I know," Claire whispered. Silence again. Then Claire said, "Grief does strange things to people. It folds time, warps everything you thought you knew." Emily looked at her. There was something heavy in the air between them, something unnamed. "Stay for dinner," she said suddenly. Claire hesitated. "Are you sure?" Emily nodded. "I just don't want to be alone tonight." They cooked in silence. Claire diced onions while Emily stirred sauce. Music played low from a Bluetooth speaker, one of Anna's old playlists. "You didn't have to," Emily said as Claire washed the dishes later. "I wanted to," Claire replied. Their hands brushed briefly as Claire passed a plate. It was a small touch, but it lingered. Emily felt it like a pulse, sharp, sudden, unwanted.
No.
Not unwanted. That's what scared her. Claire stood beside her, still holding a towel. Their shoulders nearly touched. The kitchen, once filled with voices, was now tense with breath. "You look tired," Claire murmured, eyes softening. Emily turned, startled by the closeness. Claire's face was inches from hers. There were traces of pain there, grief, yes, but also something else. Understanding. Longing. Their eyes locked. Neither moved. Then Emily stepped back, heart pounding. I should go lie down." "Of course," Claire said quickly, voice tight. "I'll head out." Emily nodded, but didn't move. Claire stepped to the door, but before she opened it, she turned back. "I'm here," she said, "even when you don't want me to be." The door clicked shut behind her, and Emily collapsed onto the kitchen floor, her hand pressed to her chest like she could hold the guilt in place. Chapter 2. Emily woke to the sound of rain against the window. For a moment, she thought she felt Anna's arm around her waist, warm, grounding. But when she turned, there was only an empty pillow and the soft impression of where someone used to sleep. Grief had become a shapeshifter. Some days it was a dull ache. Other days it was a phantom hand on her skin, a voice calling from another room. But worst of all were the moments she forgot Anna was gone, when for a split second, everything was normal again. Then came the collapse. She sat up, sheets clinging to her legs, and looked toward the door. Claire's scarf was still on the hallway hook. She must have forgotten it last night. Emily stood, gripping the edge of the bed, and walked barefoot to the kitchen. The dishes were dry in the rack. The muffin bag sat unopened. She touched it lightly, her fingers brushing the paper. It still smelled like her.
Claire.
Not Anna. And that distinction, that betrayal, was starting to feel heavier. She found herself replaying last night's almost moment in the kitchen. The near kiss, the breath between them. She hadn't imagined it. But what frightened her more was that she didn't want to imagine it. Claire returned the next afternoon under the pretense of retrieving her scarf. "I really didn't mean to forget it," she said, twirling the fabric between her fingers. "But I guess I needed an excuse." Emily stood by the doorway, arms crossed loosely. "You don't need one. You can just come by." Claire's gaze flicked up, uncertain. "Are you sure?" Emily hesitated. "Yes." They walked into the backyard together. The garden had grown even wilder. Emily knelt near the rosemary bush, her fingers working into the soil. Claire sat nearby, silent for a long time before finally speaking. "I used to be jealous of her," she admitted. "Anna." Emily glanced up. "Why?" "Because she had you. And you looked at her like she made the world make sense." Emily's hand stilled. Claire's eyes didn't waver.
"She did.
For both of us in different ways." They didn't say anything for a while. The rain had left the earth soft and fragrant. "I used to think grief was just sadness," Emily said. "But it's messier than that. It makes you feel like a traitor just for waking up and wanting to breathe again." Claire nodded, voice quiet. "Wanting doesn't make you disloyal." "It feels like it does," Emily whispered. A breeze passed between them. Claire reached over and tucked a loose strand of hair behind Emily's ear. It was such a tender, thoughtless gesture. Familiar. Intimate. Emily didn't move away. It started with tea. Claire stayed for dinner again. They made stir-fry, laughing softly over burnt garlic and the chaos of Emily's spice drawer. The ease between them was fragile, careful, like they were both walking a tightrope over a memory. Afterward, they moved to the living room. Claire brought out an old photo album she had tucked away, one that had belonged to Anna. "I wasn't sure if you wanted this," she said, "but I thought maybe now." Emily opened it with reverent fingers. There were pictures of their wedding. Anna in a silk dress, laughing with her eyes closed. Emily's face was half buried in her shoulder, grinning. "I don't even remember this moment," she murmured. "I took that one," Claire said softly. "You both looked so happy." Emily looked up. "You were always there." Claire's gaze didn't shift. "And I still am." The room was heavy with something unspoken. the kind of silence that hums with longing. Then, slowly, Claire reached across the couch and touched Emily's hand. Not accidentally, not by chance. And this time, Emily didn't pull away. Her breath hitched as Claire leaned closer. There was hesitation, a flicker of fear, but it melted beneath the way Emily looked at her, lips parted, eyes wide. Their foreheads touched first, a quiet offering. Then Claire kissed her.
Soft.
Tentative. Their hands found each other, fingers trembling. And when Emily kissed her back, it was with equal parts grief and hunger, like she was trying to remember how it felt to be alive. But the kiss didn't last long. Emily pulled back, eyes brimming with conflict. Claire, I don't know what I'm doing. Claire looked down. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, Emily said quickly. I wanted to. I can't breathe with all this guilt. Claire nodded, swallowing hard. Me too. They sat in silence. The air between them had shifted. Something irreversible had begun. Emily couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, the ceiling fan spinning lazily above her, her body still thrumming with the memory of Claire's lips. She had kissed her, and she had kissed her back. The ache wasn't just in her chest anymore. It had sunk into her skin, into her breath. There was no one to confess to, no space to safely unpack the guilt blooming inside her. The only person who might understand was the same person who made everything so complicated.
Claire.
She pressed her palms against her face. The taste of the kiss hadn't left her. But neither had the image of Anna. The way she used to brush her teeth with one hand on Emily's back, how she hummed when she read, the way she whispered home. Every time they touched. Emily still wore her ring. She stared down at it in the moonlight, turning the band slowly between her fingers. What kind of person kisses her dead wife's sister? What kind of person wants to? Chapter 3. The next morning, Emily opened the hall closet to retrieve a winter blanket and found it, a wooden box tucked behind the board games and unopened wedding gifts. Anna's handwriting was scrawled across the top in permanent marker. Emily, when the time is right. Her breath caught. She sat cross-legged on the floor, the box heavy in her lap. Her fingers hovered over the lid. Inside were letters, photos, a flash drive, a sealed envelope labeled Claire. There was also a journal, worn and familiar, the one Anna used during her final months. She flipped through pages of ink-smudged thoughts, scribbles, messy love notes. And then she found the entry. If you're reading this, it means you found the box. I hope I made it longer than they said. I hope I got to hold you for a little while longer. But if not, I want you to live, not just survive.
Live.
Find softness again. Let someone love you. Don't let the guilt bury you. I don't want your love to end with me. And Claire, she's stronger than she knows.
She'll need you.
And you might need her too. Emily pressed the pages to her lips. Tears fell silently down her cheeks. Anna had known. Somehow she'd known. Claire showed up late that evening. I shouldn't be here, she said as soon as Emily opened the door. I keep trying to talk myself out of it, but I can't stop thinking about you. Emily didn't answer right away. Instead, she led her into the living room, hands visibly shaking. I found something, she said quietly, placing the wooden box between them on the table. Claire sat beside her. She picked up the envelope labeled with her name, tracing the handwriting with trembling fingers. It's from her? Emily nodded. Claire opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, short, written in Anna's signature, slanted script.
Claire, you've always looked after me.
I know you'll look after her too. Don't be afraid of love, even if it comes dressed in guilt. Especially then. Love her the way I can't anymore.
A.
Claire read it twice before her voice broke. She knew. She gave us permission, Emily whispered. Claire met her eyes, raw and open. But can we forgive ourselves? The silence stretched. The answer wasn't simple. Then Emily leaned in, not because she wasn't afraid anymore, but because the fear had finally made room for need. This kiss was deeper. It was messier. It was everything unsaid. The grief, the longing, the shame, the hope. Claire's hand slid into Emily's hair as she pulled her closer, and Emily clung to her like she might fall apart otherwise. They made their way to the couch, a tangle of breath and hesitation. They paused, foreheads pressed together, mouths inches apart. "Are we crossing a line?" Claire whispered. "I think we already did," Emily replied. "And I don't want to go back." Claire's hand hovered just above Emily's cheek. "Then let me stay." "Stay," Emily said, the word barely audible. And she did. They lay wrapped in each other on the couch long after the kisses faded into stillness. Neither spoke.
Neither needed to.
There would be guilt tomorrow. Complications. Maybe even regret. But for now, in the hush between heartbeats, there was only this. A love that shouldn't exist. And yet somehow did. Emily woke to sunlight pouring through the windows and the quiet weight of Claire's arm draped over her waist. They were still on the couch, tangled in the same blanket, the rest of the house untouched by the shift that had happened the night before. Claire was still asleep, her breath warm against Emily's shoulder. For a moment, everything was quiet, peaceful. It almost felt right. But that moment shattered as guilt slowly crept back in. Emily carefully slid out from under Claire's arm and stood. Her knees were shaky. She walked barefoot to the kitchen, started the kettle, and gripped the counter like it could keep her upright.
The kiss.
The touch. The way their bodies had pressed together, not just out of desire, but desperation. It had been slow, tentative, full of pauses and searching glances. It hadn't gone too far, but it had gone far enough. She stared at her reflection in the kitchen window. Her hair was tousled, her eyes soft in a way she hadn't seen in months.
Claire had done that.
Behind her, she heard footsteps. Claire entered the room quietly, her sweater half slipping off one shoulder, her face unreadable. "Good morning," she said softly. Emily nodded. "I made tea." They didn't speak for a while. Just sat at the table, sipping tea, pretending that things hadn't changed, even though everything had. Finally, Claire reached across the table and gently took Emily's hand. "I'm not asking you to know what this means yet," she said. "But I meant what I said last night. I'm here, and I want to be here." Emily's throat tightened. "It scares me." "Me too." But neither of them let go. Chapter 4. 3 days later, they were found out. It happened at Anna's parents' house during a memorial lunch Emily hadn't wanted to attend. But guilt and obligation had dragged her there. Claire was there too, of course. Quiet, careful, never straying too close. But grief had made them magnetic. Every glance between them carried weight. Every accidental brush of fingers felt like a fire. And then Anna's mother noticed. Her eyes narrowed as Emily passed Claire a glass of water, their hands lingering for a second too long. Later, in the kitchen, she pulled Emily aside. "Are you seeing her?" she asked, voice sharp. Emily blinked. "What?" "Don't lie to me, Emily. I'm not blind. I saw the way you looked at her, and I know my daughters." Emily's heart pounded. "It's not what you think. So, you aren't sleeping with your dead wife's sister?" Emily recoiled. "It's not like that." Anna's mother stepped closer. "Then what is it? A phase? A distraction while you grieve? Or is it something worse?" "It's complicated," Emily whispered. "It's disgusting," she spat. "She's your sister-in-law, Emily. My daughter's sister." "She's also grieving," Emily said, her voice trembling. "And she's the only person who knows what this feels like. We didn't plan it. We didn't mean for it to happen. But it did. And you're going to ruin everything she has left if you keep dragging her into this." Emily stood frozen. Anna's mother shook her head, disgusted. "You've already buried one daughter. I won't let you destroy the other." Emily didn't speak to Claire for 2 days. Not because she didn't want to, but because the shame had returned with teeth. She went through the motions of her days like a ghost. Cooking, watering plants, folding laundry she didn't need to fold. Anna's journal sat untouched on the table. Claire came by the house on the 3rd day. She didn't knock, just walked in like she used to, like she still could. Emily stood in the kitchen, drying a mug that was already dry. Claire stopped in the doorway, cautious. You've been quiet. Emily didn't turn around. They know. Claire's silence said everything. She said, I'm ruining you. Claire took a breath. She said the same to me. Emily finally looked up. Her eyes were glassy. Are we? Claire stepped forward. Emily, I'm not a child. I'm not broken. And loving you, wanting you, it's not something I'm ashamed of. But everyone else is. I don't care about everyone else. Emily stepped back. I do. Claire paused, her face breaking. Do you care about me? The question struck like lightning. Emily's voice shook. Of course I do. Then why are you punishing both of us for feeling something real? Because it's wrong, Claire. Because I still dream about Anna. Because some nights I wake up and forget she's gone. Because when I kiss you, part of me feels like I'm cheating on her. Claire swallowed hard. You're not. You're surviving her. Emily's shoulders crumpled, the mug falling from her hand and shattering on the floor. Claire rushed forward, pulling her into a hug. Emily clung to her like a lifeline. I don't know how to do this, she sobbed. You don't have to, Claire whispered. We'll figure it out together. One day at a time. Emily nodded into her shoulder. They stood like that, among broken pieces, breathing the same breath. And for the first time since Anna's death, Emily didn't feel like a widow. She just felt human. The days that followed weren't simple, but they were theirs. Emily and Claire fell into a quiet rhythm. Mornings became sacred again, coffee shared on the porch, the soft hush of leaves brushing against the wind, legs brushing under the table like secrets. They didn't name it.
Not yet.
Because to name it felt like permission, and neither was ready for that. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the windows, Claire rested her head on Emily's lap while they listened to old records. Emily's fingers threaded absently through her hair. I was always jealous of her, Claire said. Emily's hand paused. You've said that before. I know, Claire murmured, but I don't think I understood it fully until now. Emily looked down. Why? Claire sat up slowly, her eyes unreadable. Because she got to be the woman who had your firsts. And I might be the woman who gets your after. Emily swallowed. Does that bother you? No, Claire said, brushing hair behind Emily's ear. It terrifies me. Emily's voice dropped. Me too. And still, they kissed. It was slow and searching, more tender than any kiss before. It was the kind of kiss that didn't ask for more. Just presence. Just truth. In the quiet, love had taken root. They visited Anna's grave on a Saturday. Neither spoke during the drive. Claire brought white lilies. Emily brought the letter Anna had written but never sent, the one tucked between journal pages. The one that ended with, let her love you. Don't make it a tragedy. The cemetery was nearly empty. They knelt together, side by side, in front of the stone. Emily read the letter aloud, her voice trembling as she reached the final lines. Claire sat still beside her, not reaching for her hand, not interrupting. When Emily finished, she folded the letter neatly and placed it on the grass. Then she whispered, I hope you know that I didn't mean for this. I didn't look for this. Claire, gently, but you found it anyway. Emily nodded. And it's breaking me to admit, I don't want to let it go. A breeze passed, warm and soft. Claire stood and turned to leave, giving Emily her space. But Emily reached for her hand. Stay, she said. Claire's eyes brimmed with something deeper than just tears. Always. They stood together as the sun dipped low, casting gold across the stone. Anna's name shimmered in the fading light. And somehow, for the first time, it didn't hurt to say goodbye. Chapter 5. The following week, Emily invited a few close friends over, people who had known Anna, who had grieved with her, who still walked on eggshells around Emily as if she might fall apart again. Claire helped set the table, quietly keeping her distance. But people noticed. Whispers turned to silence when Emily reached across the dinner table and gently placed her hand over Claire's. Conversation stopped. Someone dropped a fork. Anna's best friend, Meredith, stared at them, eyes wide. Are you too? Emily took a breath. She could lie. She could let go. She could run. But instead, she tightened her hold on Claire's hand and said clearly, yes. No explanations. No apologies. Just yes. Silence again. Then Meredith blinked. You're allowed to be happy again, Emily. I just didn't think it'd be with her. I didn't either, Emily whispered. Claire stayed still, gaze steady. Meredith looked between them, then finally nodded. She would have wanted this if it's real. It is, Claire said softly, and we're doing our best to honor her, even if it doesn't look the way people expect. That night, after the guests left, Claire stood at the kitchen sink washing wine glasses. Emily came up behind her, wrapping her arms around her waist. I want to be brave, Emily whispered into her neck. With you. Claire leaned into her. Then be brave. Just once more. Emily turned her to face her. Stay tonight. Claire smiled. Always. The news spread, not in a scandalous, dramatic way, just whispered enough that it rippled through the edges of their world. Some friends turned cold, others warmed, but no one stayed neutral. And then one evening, they got the call. Anna's father wanted to talk. Emily agreed, even though Claire told her she didn't have to. If we want to live honestly, Emily said, we don't get to avoid the hard things. They met at the house, where Anna had grown up. The same front porch where she'd first kissed Emily under a rainstorm. The same steps Claire had sat on the day of the funeral, shoulders shaking in silence. Her father opened the door. He didn't offer hugs, just a nod. The living room was quiet, tense. He sat across from them, his eyes hard to read. You two together now. Emily didn't flinch. Yes. He studied her. You think that's what she would have wanted? Claire's voice was steady. We know it is. You expect me to accept that my daughters shared a lover? No, Emily said. We expect you to accept that we're in love. And we're not asking for your blessing, but we're asking for your kindness. The silence that followed was long. He looked away, jaw clenched. Grief does strange things to people. Claire whispered, so does love. When they left, he didn't say goodbye, but as they stepped off the porch, he called out, take care of each other. And maybe it wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't hate. Autumn arrived slowly. The garden Emily once neglected now bloomed with care. The rosemary had been trimmed. The sunflowers had returned. Inside, the home looked different, warmer, lived in, layered with presents. Claire moved in that October. Not with boxes or declarations. Just toothbrushes, sweaters, and silence that no longer hurt. One night, as they folded laundry together, Claire looked up and asked, do you ever miss her in ways that make you want to disappear? Emily didn't pretend to misunderstand.
Yes.
All the time. Claire nodded. Me too. They sat on the floor together, wrapped in a pile of blankets, grief woven into every thread between them. But, Emily said softly, I also think she'd be really proud of us. Claire smiled gently. For surviving? For loving anyway. They didn't talk about forever. Not yet. They talked about next spring and maybe adopting a dog. They talked about repainting the hallway. About whether it was too soon for Claire to bring her piano into the house. They didn't dream big. They dreamed quiet. And that was enough. It rained on the day Emily took off her wedding ring. She didn't cry. She placed it in a small wooden box, the same one Anna had left behind, and wrote the date inside the lid. Not as an ending, but a marking of time. A letting go. She found Claire in the garden, barefoot, her fingers muddy, cheeks flushed from laughing at something the wind had said. Emily kissed her there, dirt and all. I feel like I'm betraying her less and choosing myself more, she whispered. Claire kissed her back. Maybe it's the same thing. They stood together, their foreheads pressed, laughter caught between their lips. Emily thought of all the ways love could break a person. Then she thought of all the ways Claire had held her together. And in that still moment beneath the gray sky, she knew. Love wasn't wrong. Love had simply changed its name. Share your story. Have an LGBTQ+ experience. or a heartfelt fictional lesbian story. We'd love to hear it. Your privacy is respected, but if you'd like a shout out, just let us know. Send your story to heartbeattales.001@gmail.com and be part of a community that celebrates love in all forms. Thanks for listening to GL Stories. We love hearing from you. Drop a comment below and let us know what you thought of today's story. Your feedback helps us create even better content. Don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to turn on notifications so you're the first to catch our new episodes. See you in our next stories.